Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals, and part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat, and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've had a bunch of questions submitted already. As you can't see, because my printer didn't work this morning, so I'll be reading from screen, but I promise you they're there. However, if you have any questions, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, there's usually lots of other amazing SEOs live on the call who share their ideas, experiences, and perspectives. I personally think that's one of the best things about SEO Office Hours is not just hearing from the four of us, but hearing from everybody else. So please continue to do that. And like always, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Good morning.
Good morning, hello, and welcome to everyone to SEO Office Hours. We have another international SEO Office Hours. Thank you, everyone. We have people dialing in from Ankara, Munich, Brighton, Barcelona, London. Let us know where you're calling in from. And welcome to our 88th episode of SEO Office Hours. So over 2 years of running the show, and we'll be running it next week and the week after, and then we'll take a little break for Christmas. As Mike said, I'm Juliana Turnbull. I'm been happy to co-host the show with Mike, and we've got some great SEO Office Hour special guests today. We have Yagmur and Laura. Thank you very much for joining us today. So I wanted to, first of all, say also a big thank you to people that have joined us live. Thank you to Barbara, Bengu, Daniel, Emma, Francisca, Gatsi, Ian, Ikra, Jack, Jonathan, Mark, Monse, Preeti, Rich, Rob, Simon, Walid, and Jordan, all joining us live. We are here every Friday at 9:30 a.m. GMT. Join us live and you can have your questions answered straight away. If you're joining us recording it, click a like on the video as well. And those that are joining us live, feel free to also subscribe to our YouTube channel because we've got loads of episodes and loads of content to answer all your SEO questions. So I want to give a brief intro to our great special guests. We have Yagmur. Thank you for joining us. You are very busy. You are an independent SEO consultant and you're a content strategist. You've got more than 10 years of experience helping brands and startups achieve sustainable organic growth. You also won Young Search Personality of the Year. You are founder of Search and Stuff and a co-founder of the Global Cybersecurity Network and global fintech market platforms. Very busy, Yagmur. But previous to that, you worked in-house and you worked agency side as well. And you also have spoken and speak at many large conferences, including Brighton SEO. You were at International Search Summit, Barcelona, Search Web Paris. You were also spoke at WTS Fest London, and also We Love SEO Paris. Yagmur, how do you have time to do all this? I'm going to share your LinkedIn profile in the chat here.
Oh, thank you. I wouldn't describe myself like that. Thanks for that. Obviously, some are really the project that I'm now doing the maintenance now, which helps because we passed the difficult parts, like for the startups I have. So I think most of the time organizing events and the new clients are taking much of my time. But yeah, here we are.
Thank you for joining us on the show today, and a big welcome to Laura. Hello, Laura. You lead the SEO growth at Octopus Energy, and you've also founded Searchpedia, which is the glossary for all things search. You have agency and in-house experience, and you're also a proud member of Women in Tech SEO. You've also appeared on the Majestics podcast, Search with Sean, and also SEO Happy Hour. And we'd like to wish your granddad, Nikolai, 87 years old today, a very happy birthday. Happy birthday to your granddad.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to quickly say in Romanian, he's probably not going to watch this, but I will show it to him. Just this little bit.
Yeah, happy birthday, Nikolai. How do you say it? La mulți ani?
La mulți ani.
La mulți ani.
Yes.
Happy birthday. And thank you very much, Laura. You are also very busy. How do you find the time to do it all?
I just love what I do. I think is the answer to everything here, really. Everyone's got this sort of endless resource to work in SEO. So I think that's where I'm drawing from. And obviously community. I think just seeing things like these podcasts, people active on LinkedIn and all these conferences, they really get me there. Yeah. Keep doing
Yes.
what you do, guys.
Great, thank you. And both you and Yagmur were at the International Search Summit last month. It was a great event. I think there was like 800 people out there in Barcelona. Yeah, I love these events. As I always say, what am I most excited about in SEO? Events, and I should also say community, because that's how we found out about the events. We've got loads of questions today at the 88th episode, so I'm going to pass back to you, Mike, to go through some of those questions, get them answered.
Super. As I said, my printer wasn't working this morning, so that means I'm a little bit disorganized. We'll go with it. So, question one. Let's start with this one. If trust is now the real ranking factor, how do we measure it? Who would like to kick off? Law?
Laura said
Oh,
big wow, so I'm
Sorry,
just
you moved. So I took that as a yes, I'll go for it.
yeah, it's a funny one. Mark was in the chat, easy first question. It's not. It's something that I think both in-house and agency teams are talking about at the moment. Which metrics are we really looking at nowadays with everything that's happening and what's relevant, what's not? And I think with everything else, and to be fair, it's funny, I'm actually starting with this answer because it's such an SEO answer to give, but it really depends on your business. Shocker, I know. Ah! In my field at the moment, I think the things that we're looking at the most is obviously tracking the entity footprint over time. I'm fortunate enough to work for a brand that's quite established. So I think in that sense, I wouldn't say it's easier for us, but it's a little bit easier than if I would have worked agency side at the moment and have to build from scratch. Like when you're, for example, using your trust signals, using your trust logos, your trust pilot, your customer reviews and stuff like that. I think that's something that kind of eases my way into this as well. It really helps in the long run. So I'd say if you can look at that. So yeah, I'm just going to say, I suppose, monitor your brand reviews and reputation overall and treat that as a trust signal if you like. Oh, and if you like user behavior analytics, which I think you do because you're an SEO, obviously start playing with Hotjar and see how people click around your website. Not invent like signals necessarily, but just track that a bit more closer and see how people react with your page. So yeah, I think that's what comes top of my mind right now, but it's a long talk, isn't it? So please do interfere.
Yama, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, it was a great answer, to be honest. What I can add would be obviously, we already mentioned that we are also looking for a brand, how your brand is actually getting the presence in the online ecosystem. In addition to website metrics, and maybe in the past we were doing it when we were doing startups, because I'm all around SEO and I feel like I'm using my soft skills I gained from past now much better than before. And maybe social listening is actually another thing that we start doing. And not only maybe reviews, but also what really people talk about your brand in other platforms like TikTok. Right? Obviously, we talk about Reddit, but it's a bit controversial area. But in different forums as well, because when you need to do localization in a different country, they have different social platforms that your brand might be mentioned and either positive or negative way. So I think social listening is actually important in that step and see what else you can actually provide to make your brand more trustworthy and what else you can mention basically. Happy to give examples later, but yeah, in generic.
Great. Joe, what about you? If trust is now the real ranking factor, how do you measure it?
I definitely think you need to be doing your brand monitoring and mentioning. So how do you measure that? It is dependent on that platform, but I do believe that you would need to have a strategy as part of your 2026 sort of roadmap. What are we doing in terms of brand? And one element of that is, how we are appearing in forums. Like Reddit and Google made a massive deal in February 2024 where they're allowing Google to crawl their forums for a certain fee, $60 million. Is quite a bit of money. And then there's now a lot of Reddit answers that are coming or into the AI overviews. It could be because of that. So if you're not appearing in Reddit, or if you are appearing in Reddit, but a lot of negative mentions, That's probably something to look into. I'll find the source of that information of the Reddit and Google partnership because after that partnership, it did have a big impact on the content being pulled into AI overviews from Reddit.
Great. I'm not hearing domain authority, quantity of links, or anything like that. That's good. One thing I've been using recently, I guess I was a bit late to the party, but one tool in the last couple of months has been also asked. And I put a load of my clients in there just to find out what questions people are asking about clients. And I think that's a really good starting point to see how, if, for example, if people are asking whether you're legit or whether you're a scam and things like that, it's probably not the best signal or sign versus some more positive questions. So I think that's a really good place to look. Law mentioned about Trustpilot, but I think, yeah, those kind of review platforms, with all my clients, I make a big point of going through all of their recent reviews and trying to create some form of metric there to see if they're doing a good job. Obviously, a lot of that also relies on the actual product and experience itself, not just the website. But I think that it's all part of the same, when it comes to trust, it's all part of the brand and so on. It depends. Sometimes I end up using AI now for things like that to help me do that a bit quicker than I used to do it. But going through each review and actually reading it and trying to categorize those kind of positive and negative issues or ideas and so on, I find could be super useful. Obviously, keeping an eye on external sources as well. So actually looking at things like your tools that cover things like backlinks so that you can see what coverage you're getting and comparing that to your competitors. And I was only joking when I said the quantity of links. If there are list posts and things like that about the best in your industry and so on, and whether you are or aren't being featured is a good signal, I would say, along with all of the other stuff that everyone's mentioned. So yeah, Joe, do we have anything in the chat?
Yeah, we do have some comments. Mark has just mentioned about also ask, this little promotion. Can we share that, Mark, on that? I'll wait for Mark to come back about also ask. So yeah, great tool. Also ask. Everyone's saying a big shout out to that. Mark said, good answer, Mike. Really good answer that you mentioned as well to you, Lara and Yagmur. Rob is saying Reddit and Quora as sources of trust. I'm not sure. We also have ones saying, see how metrics for other channels grow, like newsletter subscriptions and traffic. EJ saying, I'm glad Amina's not here. Don't mention Trustpilot in front of her. I think that's it so far. We also have John saying, don't forget, this is a good point. Yes, then Jonathan, don't forget things like churn, returns, and complaints. Oh, dare I say it? Things like Glassdoor. Yeah, that's it so far. Yeah. And I actually just shared the one about Reddit brand management. So basically, Google is paying Reddit 60 million to train its artificial intelligence models like Gemini and ChatGPT. And yeah, it looks since the deal took place in February 2024, that was the second referred source of truth from AI overviews, the first one being Quora. Thanks, everyone. Great answers.
Amazing. Did anybody want to add anything else before we go to the next question?
I do, but it's more of a question, to be fair.
Go.
Yeah, because we've mentioned Reddit, and I've been a Redditor since I was a teenager, pretty much. But professionally, let's say I've only started recently to look into it, working with brands. And I've noticed a lot of the SEO tools nowadays and some of the more brand watch ones, they will offer like different scores when it comes to your Reddit presence in terms of like sentiment, saliency. There are a couple of like new things that just started to pop up. And I was wondering if any of you have any experience with it at the moment and how do they work?
Good question. Do any of you
Anybody?
guys have any experience? Okay,
Turn the floor open.
I really should because one of my clients is actually a social media listening platform and they include Reddit and they include AI and so on. But they're based out in Australia, so I don't really use it personally. So I should know the answer. And what I'm going to do is rather than make something up, I'm going to answer that question next week because I'm going to speak to them
Nice.
if that helps. Okay, cool. But does anybody in the chat have anything?
No, I don't see anything in chat yet about
Okay,
this.
so we will bring that back up next week, and I will speak to them and find out how their scores and so on work. One thing I was going to add actually that I find quite helpful is, and I do this more from a CRO perspective, but it can also be helpful for this, is to add things like polls to key pages on your website, just capture information from people, and also those people that might have signed up but not bought from you, sending them like incentivizing them to fill out surveys to find out more about them and what they were looking for, and find out what they think about the brand and why they didn't end up buying from you and who they did end up buying from and all that stuff. And then doing the same with those who did buy from you. I find that's really helpful for finding out when I present back to clients, showing what people think. But it can also be really helpful for things like value propositions and content across the site and conversion boosters and all of that stuff. So that could be another thing to do.
Actually, we did have an answer to that question. So EJ said, actually, you can always pop your relevant subreddit URL into your search tool of choice and then filter the keywords. That was one suggestion. And actually, Jordan, you just shared that Dan Petrovic has developed a tool for brand AI sentiment, Google AI brand perception, mining through synthetic reviews. So this is reviews.dejan.ai. Carl said that Mark made a great point a while back about tracking thumbs up and thumbs down on blogs. I reckon if you segment that data by content type stroke bucket, you could get a good insight into what your users like to see. Yeah, that's a great idea. Melissa said LLM Pulse has just released a new URL and she's just shared it there. LLmpulse.ai. Great, thank you. Wow. That's a lot of answers for 2 questions so far.
Great.
No, one
No, I was
question.
going to say one
Oh,
question,
sorry,
Joe.
one
You're quite
question.
optimistic there.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, next question then. Buying a previously used domain often carries historic entity baggage. With Google and AI systems relying more on entity understanding, how much risk is there in acquiring a domain with irrelevant historic associations? And can you realistically reset that entity profile? Who would like to kick off on this one?
I can. I
Go
mean,
for it.
to be honest, I don't have experience myself, but I'm just gonna share my really personal opinion. Obviously, first it would be helpful to know why you are buying that domain, what is the motivation behind. And I worked in a few agencies in the past, and there were times that potential clients reached out to us and then actually giving those domains to us to audit and provide a report saying about anything about the historical data or their potential traffic or potential spam activities or anything that basically could harm their reputation. So I think it is a good practice if you are planning to buy or acquire a new domain and use it for your new brand or service or product. I think it is really important to do this kind of due diligence kind of audit for those domains so that you can actually see the red flags beforehand and then you can just make a trusted decision at least. And if you already bought it, and if there is actually some maybe negative historical data or the data that you don't want to see for your entity or for your area, it's education process that you need to first uneducate your data. You need to start from scratch. And actually it's started from minus to zero and then to plus ones. So yeah, I think that's my own opinion.
Great. Lord, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, to be fair, Yagmur explained it very well in the sense that I'm thinking if it's a toxic domain, if a lot of manual penalties is gone through a lot of things, yeah, it's going to be hard. I don't think it's impossible from what I've seen, read, etc. But I think is it worth it at the end of the day? Like, it's just one of those things that you need to ask yourself, depending on what you're getting out of it. Does it make sense to just get your .co.uk.com or something similar, or I don't know. People, I think they get very set on certain branding name, which I absolutely get, and the way we spell it and so on. But at the same time, I'm thinking if it is a toxic domain, like it might be more work to take over it in that sense. If it's not the case, though, I mean, there are a couple of like step 1, step 2, step 3 that you can work with your SEO experts and your dev team. Just almost, what do you call it, to-do list, if you like. You can create with them and go through checking your organization schema is nice and updated. You've got your new logo, you've got your clear nap, revamp your about, your contact pages, all that. So step by step, try to make it yours in that sense. pretty much review everything that's on there and make it your own. And don't forget that according to devs, I think I read it somewhere that Google doesn't read your domain as your entity, so your entity lives on your domain, so it's just your sort of continuation, if you like. So you have the control there. It just takes a bit of more time to mold it the way you want it for it to appear. So don't confuse domain with entity in that sense. You're absolutely fine to revamp and rebrand and everything you want to. But yeah, it's just a matter of deciding if it's worth the hassle or not, depending on how healthy that domain is or isn't.
That's a very good point, Lara, and a great point also
Said
from
it depends
Yagmur.
again. Sorry.
What?
I said it depends again. Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. I just wanted to say that was a good point because Mark actually said he had a client come to them with the domain and they could not get it to rank at all. And when he checked the Wayback Machine, the site was previously a porn site. So it was flagged by a lot of ISP stroke safe search, and it took loads of manual work to get it cleaned. I would say if you're going to be buying an old domain, ask yourself why is it relevant? And if you are buying an old domain, someone's charging a lot of money for it, maybe check that Wayback Machine first. We have a few other comments in the chat that Simon has said that I say there's a reasonable amount of risk. I've seen search engines keep hold of URLs for many years, like 15 years plus. So you really need to check. EJ saying that so many gambling sites do this. So basically, they buy that previous use domain because they think it's going to add a lot of weight. And I would say it really, and I will say this word, it depends because it does. Like, why do you want to buy a site that's been there for a while? If it's because it's something related to your brand, then you want to build up on that. It already has a lot of domain authority or it's got a relevant links linking to it. Okay, but if it's completely irrelevant, I would say apply that principle to anything else. If you're not selling vintage clothes and you're buying from a gambling site, would you do that in a business? Would you go to a gambling site for that? No, and you probably wouldn't want to buy an entity or a domain that was a gambling site. You want to just keep it all for vintage clothes. Just wanted to see if there's any more actually chats in here. Any comments? This has got some nice jokes, Jordan. If I could turn back time, referring to shares, great video, music video. So Rob has said that I've seen this same question on webmaster calls for more than a decade. I think Google has always avoided giving owners a start again option because A, it allows unethical and naughty webmasters to try stuff and start again with no risk. And B, the risk of doing it by mistake or a hacker wiping your entire domain. I wouldn't personally buy a site that was irrelevant to my business, but depends on what your objectives are. Mike, what do you think?
Oh, I think it depends on why you're buying the domain. If you're buying it because it's a great name and you could turn it into a brand, then it makes total sense. And a bit like if you were buying any type of business, you would go in and sort it out first. So a bit like Law was saying, I would be tempted to, or no, it might have been Yama was saying about getting it from minus to zero. I've bought many domains and many websites over the time. And yeah, it's usually thinking, can we turn this into something really cool that people want to visit and read and so on, and not just for its history. And so I think if you're going to take on a domain, so for instance, when I bought Good Signals, that domain, it had been a business before and then it had been dead for a while. So it used to be a web development agency based in the States. And then it was basically up for sale. I sat on the idea for a year, bought it. And the first thing that I like, I don't want people to think I'm a web development agency in the States. I want them to think I'm an SEO, CRO, and so on company in London. So actually, at the time, this was going back a while ago, I just disavowed all of their links, but because I didn't want that association and I wanted to go out there and talk about Good Signals and get as much sort of coverage or new stuff and focus on creating a good website and all of that. And I've done that many times for clients and so on, where bought domains or bought actual websites and tried to turn them around into something usable and useful. So yeah, I would say, why are you doing, if you're like a streaming site or one of the others that we've talked about in the chat, and it's a crash and burn type job that you're doing. I don't know if I'd be bothered to do that personally. It's not my way of doing things. But if you really like the name and you think, oh, I just wish it hadn't have been this before, if you're going to do it, be prepared to really clean things up before you start and try and disassociate yourself with it. And for those of you that 10 years ago have been through processes where you've had link building penalties and had to clean them up and all of that, I would go through a similar process where if you don't want to be associated with websites, reach out to them and ask them to remove you for your new domain from it and all of that, and just get to ground zero before you then start building on it. Joe, do we have anything else in the chat?
Simon has shared just a little joke, I think, in here. I haven't opened it yet. Maybe it's self-help group for people addicted to purchasing silly domain names. Very funny. I would check out what Simon has shared in the chat there. No, that is now all. We've only done 2 questions since 11 o'clock. I did want to just say thank you again to those that are joining us live and those that are watching the recording. If you are watching the recording, as Mike said, it's so much more fun joining us live. If you can, appreciate time difference and everything, like in California, it's a bit early for you. But we are here every Friday at 9:30 a.m. GMT. Click a like on the videos and subscribe to YouTube channel, and then you'll never miss another show again. Okay, ready for our next questions.
Great. I was just also going to add that I quite like using Little Warden. For any clients I work with, it basically lets me know if their domain, how close it is to expiring and stuff like that. And if you're the person that owns a website or decent domains, make sure that you don't let them expire. So you're not in a situation where somebody else is buying it and then doing cool stuff with it, or not cool stuff. Okay, next question. Oh, we've got so many good ones. Okay, how would I know if ChatGPT or Google AI mode is using my site as a source?
Ooh, that is a good one.
Joe, go for it.
Oh, I'm just saying that's a good one. I have been using Google AI overview more than AI mode. I would think that it was actually citing the source, I believe. But I am not an expert yet in this field or have loads of experience because I like to use the AI overviews, and I'm pausing AI mode for now. Maybe that's something I'll do over Christmas. But if anybody else would like to answer that question or answer in the chat, feel free.
I'll take it. Yeah, so both ChatGPT and AI modes, I think what they've got in common is obviously, and I think we all do this anyway at this point, is just check your server logs for user agents, see what's happening out there. Check for weird names as well. Again, I'm lucky enough to have a team of developers that are quite good at this. So they will spot things sometimes before me, which is really fun. I think that's the most common answer that I could give for this. Just track your server logs. I suppose manual prompting also worked for me with ChatGPT. Like, for example, I've tested this. I saw someone posting on LinkedIn. I would like to quote the person, but I honestly don't remember who, of how they were manually testing their prompts. They've added like this really unique information on their website, something about a special offer, to see if either of these tools pick it up. And then they just went in and manually tested it, and it was there. So that was the first clue that, yeah, they are watching it. They are watching me, kind of thing. So yeah, my experience is just with these two at the moment, but I'm happy to learn more if you've got anything in the chat.
I think mine was a bit similar with the manual checks. Mine was with my B2B website, Global Cybersecurity Network. What I did was I was actually checking the top performing pages for that specific week or a month, and then checking the queries that those specific pages were getting traffic from, but the queries that are really niche and the long tail and like conversational, etc. And then I was actually checking that manually in different ChatGPT or other search results and seeing some of them actually I saw that they were cited. And then, yeah, I think apart from that, I didn't have any experience with like an automated version of checking all the mentions and the sources, of course, sources used.
Thank you, Laura and Yagmur. Actually, we've also had log files quoted by Bengu and also Simon. So thank you for that. Simon has said something as well in here. He said, hide the page from real visitors and then search the LLMs and test it. He's done it with a small made-up village, and he occasionally asks the LLMs the name of the pub. So he did it with a make-up word. So very interesting, actually, Simon. And oh, Jonathan, you have shared Wikidata IO. They have an early adopter special. Use them and have a look. So this is run by Dixon Jones, and Dixon has taken part in our SEO office hours. And have a look at Wakey, everyone. The link's in the chat. Thank you, Jonathan.
Dixon and Dawn are back actually, aren't they, for the Christmas, the just before Christmas one, which they did last year, which was fun.
Yes, I wasn't sure if we could say, but okay, yes, Dawn
Yeah.
and Dixon are coming back for our Christmas jumper special. So that's in 2 weeks' time on December the 19th. Wear your Christmas jumper, even if you are not being recorded. That's just part of the Christmas spirit.
Cool. So some clients that I work with have been using SEMrush. I've been using Ahrefs. They've got their brand radar tool for checking out to see. I don't know with any of these things how accurate they are, but it's a good indicator to help you understand how you're performing in competitors. One of the things I've been doing with it though is, and with Ahrefs, I use AI mode, AI overviews, ChatGPT, and then there are a few others, but I mainly focus on those ones because you pay per LLM that you're tracking. I tend to do it where I add my client, but then remove their branded terms so I can see what they are served for in terms of non-branded, and then we'll do it the other way as well. And I'll do that for all of their competitors. So just find out what everybody's talking about in their industry, and that really helps with building content plans. Sorry, I'm losing my voice at this point. Laura, you were nodding there. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I've been an early adopter of Brand Radar, tested it thoroughly, and now I'm like addicted. I've tested so many things. I'm currently working on 3 different continents for the same topic.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see this sort of like percentage that AI answers. So all of these platforms pretty much cover on just this topic fields only. And if you separate that from the entire market, normally it's a very small percentage. And you're there like, what am I even fighting for there? It's 1% or 2%. So yeah, Brand Radar was honestly lifesaver in that sense. But again, take it with a pinch of salt. Synthetic data, the prompts aren't real, they're generated. So yeah, you got to be quite mindful of how you use it and not over explain it internally, I think, if you use it. Just, do you think?
But like you said, they're great indicators, right? In terms of the conversations that are happening and can help you find those kind of gaps and opportunities. It's that, and I mentioned also asked before, like I've added those both into my kind of content planning now and content strategy, which is really nice.
Yeah, we just have one more.
Oh, yes, go for it, Joe.
One more comment, and thank you, Stefan. Stefan has said that he always liked this GPT from Aleda, which shows what ChatGPT knows about your brand and if you're showing up for some typical non-brand queries. So have a look at that one. Thank you, Stefan, for sharing that.
Also, OpenAI's blog, they're often sharing research and so on about what people are searching for and how they're using it more generally. And that can be quite interesting. It's obviously not going to show you stuff about your specific industry, but that's obviously going to develop the more people become comfortable with using tools like that. So it's worth keeping an eye on their blog, which is useful. Okay, reporting takes me 3 hours each month per client to interrogate GA4, Google Search Console, SEMrush data, and to compile a meaningful report with stats and commentary. Is this a common amount of time to spend on this task, or is it too much, too little? Obviously, we're not sure about the size of the site, but in general, I'm sure we all do some form of reporting. Who would like to kick off on this question?
Well, I'm happy to say about reporting.
Go, Joe.
Go.
Hey.
Yeah, so I remember when I first moved to agency side, we had one person that spent a whole day on a weekly report, and that had a lot of data and nobody read it. So what I would say is you are now at the end of the year, you can do a refresh and decide, okay, ask people, what do they like about the report and what do they not read? And try and do an audit and therefore get rid of the areas that they're not looking at, because we don't know how many clients you have. But let's say maybe you might be looking after 5 or 6, that's 18 hours per month that you're doing. So that's half your working week, which is a considerable amount of time. So I'd actually just ask people the question, what do you like best about the report? What could I not have? And actually use the end of year as an opportunity to like reset and actually divide that reporting time in half, because that is way too much.
Great. Law, do you do any reporting? You've obviously worked for a huge organization.
Yes, but as with everything else, I do have a bit of help. So it doesn't take me that long. I work with templates now because my brain's yeah, I can't do it. If I've got a lot of data, I'm going to be in there for hours and hours. And I do get it. Whoever asked that question, I get you. But you need to have someone to slap you a bit and be like, metaphorically, obviously, and take you back to reality, or else you're going to end up hyper focused and just be there forever. Because it's not just seeing patterns at that point, you're just there like inventing stuff too. If you spend too much time on it, you're going to see things that aren't really there. That's my advice when it comes to planning your time with reporting. I think again, everyone's different, and if you need a bit more time to, depending on your level as well, if you're entry level, if you've done it, if you do it every month, for example, obviously it's going to take you less and less the more you do it. Yeah, I'm not going to say it again because I don't want to be number four with the, I'm not going to say it, but it's down to you.
Great. Yagmur, any dashboards or reports or anything that you're doing each month, and how long are you spending on them?
Yeah, since I switched to freelance life, I do it on my ways. So I use Looker Studio dashboard. I set up it in the beginning and I ask the client if these metrics are the ones that they want to see in addition to mine. And then we finalize that reporting so that they can actually see the numbers if they want to see numbers or graphs. But each month I'm actually, obviously I'm sharing reporting from that dashboard, which actually is easier once you set it up. And then I'm going into deep, just like giving them actual insights. Okay, this happened, but this could be the reason. And then what we can do is blah, blah, blah. I think that's the most of the time, that's the part they actually care about. And sometimes even they ask me to cut the slides and so that they can share it with the senior executive levels, etc. But I have to confess that I'm not gonna tell the client name or the agent's name, but I actually quit one of my jobs in the past just because of reporting, because every week it was taking my whole Monday because client really needed a very specific format of report, and it was from also Adobe. So the data was from Adobe and it was like endless process and it was giving me anxious times, and I was like, no, I can't deal with this anymore. And honestly, we couldn't find a solution at all, and we would either let the client go or me. So I think I was like, okay, I'm just gonna give up, and then I don't want to spend my whole Mondays for this, etc. I think that was the eye-opening process for me. And after that, with my freelance clients, I'm setting all these expectations from the beginning, and it goes well at the moment. So back to the hours, in monthly reports, I spend at least 2 hours for sure, maybe three sometimes if it's too much stuff going on. Depends on the websites, if it's a big e-com website or like a small B2B, etc. But also on weekly reporting, I'm not even doing it on dashboards or Google Slides or whatever. I'm just doing it by email summary and giving the links to the dashboards. I think it's just easier for weekly reporting rather than preparing all the documentation, etc. Because some clients ask for weekly reports.
Amazing. See, I'm one of these people, I love reporting. It's one of my favorite parts of the job because I see that bit of time that you get, I see as I'm like investigating and I'm seeing what's working, what's not. I learned to not report on generic stuff anymore. That was something that I stopped doing quite a while ago. And I also try and keep my reports as small as possible, and I avoid tons and tons of graphs. But what I do always do is provide like an appendices with all of that stuff. So I tend to look through loads of things and snapshot and so on, so it's there. But the actual report itself is the stuff that I think is meaningful, like that was in the question, the stuff that makes a difference. So if nothing's changed, I don't tend to put that stuff in. When I'm talking, I might say organic traffic's this or whatever. But the stuff that I'm really interested in is the things that are the extremes, or whether something's working or whether it's not working, those elements. And I love digging further and trying to work out why. And from an SEO
Hmm.
perspective, I use SEO Stack because I have like loads of filters set up which is so good. You now have more filter options in Google Search Console, but you can have all these saved filters, which are amazing for very quickly finding the current issues with the site. And then once I found those, I love going into sort of the competitor data as well and finding what's happening over there and why something's changed. Obviously, rankings data, got LLM data, and then just also looking at things like recent reviews and all that stuff. And I try and build a bit of a picture of what's happening that then I can use for other things, for like content and so on, like what's in the news for their industry. And I try and set up as much of that as possible. And often I'm feeding a lot of that information to LLMs to ask what's the best way to display this data and so on, rather than just taking screenshots of the tools we use. And yeah, I try and avoid dashboards where possible, because unless the client that there's a specific problem or question they have each week, then obviously I'll create dashboards and say, here's a link, go and look at that whenever you like. But yeah, I try and make it more, I turn it into a bit of a story. That my reports are beautiful. They're very beautiful. Anyway, I love doing that sort of stuff. Probably spend way too much time on it, but I see that as an opportunity to review my strategy and whether something's working or not. So I feel like I'm doing reporting more for me, and I happen to be sharing it with the client rather than it being solely for them. And I would just say, be honest as possible when you're reporting, because there's so many people I've worked with in the past where they would be like high-fiving themselves on the good months, and then they have a bad month, whereas actually you can't control the output, so you're better off just being really honest with them. But in terms of the timing I spend on that stuff, because I tend to have all these filters and things set up on things like SEO Stack and all of that, actually I probably say for a pretty solid website in terms of traffic size, 3 hours seems really reasonable. Yeah, I would say that's totally fine. If it depends on how much time the overall project is each month, but say for instance, if that's your main client, then I would say that's definitely a good amount of time. And obviously you're looking on a daily basis as well. I naturally log stuff if I'm confused or if there's something that's not quite right, and we'll look into it, and then we'll also add that into the report. Oh,
Thank you,
Rich, love
Mike.
that. Sorry, I don't like reporting.
So Mike loves it. So Rich, question. So we have different opinions. So I was saying 3 hours is too much per client, because if you had 5 clients or 6, that's like half your week for just the monthly. And Mike's saying he gets a lot out of the reporting. So I guess going to that answer, it depends really on actually, yeah, how much time you have. But the common thread, it seems to be from everyone's comments, and thank you very much, is to automate things as much as possible. For example, actually, Simon said that 10 minutes gathering the data and then 2 hours and 50 analyzing seems okay. And Mike was also saying about the storytelling and the fact that actually I think you, Mike, you've allocated, and you as well, Yammer, for your own companies, like how much you've billed. So you've actually allocated the time for that, for the reporting. We don't know, Rich, like who's come up with the time frame for the reports. And maybe some people are over servicing in terms of reporting and didn't give that enough time. So I would also look at that also for 2025. Oh, Yammer, over to you, Yammer.
It just came to my mind as I approach like for monthly reports. For the last couple of slides is always like what's happening for the next month, which is actually new like next month strategy that I gained from the monthly reports, insights and deep dive. So I think it's also saving time for the next month's tasks for me. That's why I like that part much better than telling about the numerical history of the clicks and impressions.
Thanks, Yammer. Oh, and also, sorry, I just want to say that, Simon, you did a post back in 2019 on Looker Studio for site migration. So have a look at that one. Thank you. Mark, yeah, as well said, automation seems to be the common denominator. So I don't know, Rich, how much automation you have. Maybe if you are spending the 3 hours and not with automation, very manual, then yes, you could cut down some of that time. Jordan said that sounds like if Yammer and Mike teamed up, that Mike would do all the reporting and Yammer could take care of the rest.
Do everything else. One thing I like doing when it comes to reporting as well is putting myself in the reader's shoes and thinking what questions might they have. And I make a point of writing them down whenever I think of them. And so when I'm going through the report or when I'm building it, I'm making sure I'm also answering those questions. But I really don't think it's that bad spending time on it, because I think then, because you usually have a meeting after a report, don't you, where you have an opportunity to talk about it. And I feel like that is then what you use to determine what you do next, or whether the strategy is working, or if the clients are happy or unhappy, and so on. And I think if it's just like a really quick 10-minute thing that you're just quickly going into Search Console, going, oh, I need to screenshot this and that and so on, to give them that, and it doesn't really mean anything, then it's, I don't know, I just feel like it's a really, if you only have one meeting a month to talk about your strategy, I think the report is the thing. And I often send it to clients before I meet them, so they get a chance to digest it, and then we'll go through it.
That is a good
Anyway,
one. I just want to say one more point on this, Rich. Thank you for your comments. He said thanks for the answers. He feels much more comfortable about spending the time reporting per client, but he can easily fall down a deep rabbit hole, especially when analyzing keywords in different tools. And this is the thing. I think you need to maybe set a timer, but obviously easier said than done. And we just have 4 minutes left.
I can't tell the time today because I thought we had about 15 minutes left. So I'm there bagging on about reporting, and we've got, sorry about that. Because I was going to fit in another question before our regular one.
No, you love reporting, so we'll come to you for that next time.
By the way, just because I know some people jump off the call just before, just as we're leaving, if there are any freelancers or agencies on this call right now, stay afterwards if I've got a potential client that I can't work with. So I'll say it once we stop recording, because I'm at capacity at the moment. Yeah. Okay, last question is...
What are you most excited about?
What are you most excited in terms of SEO? Law, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment?
Everything, but just to select the one, I feel like we have front rows of what's happening with search and what's not to like about that, really. I don't think I've ever been as excited about SEO as I've been this year, and as I potentially feel like I'm going to be in the future, mainly because it felt a bit repetitive. Every sort of like thing out there, it just felt like it was just same thing, but like in a different kind of like skin. If you play games, you know what I'm on about. Whereas now, it just feels like it's all new and exciting. But yeah.
Great. Yama, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment?
I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna be focused on the tasks and stuff. But I think I'm most excited about the SEO community, how they are like evolving and supporting each other. And I know it looks like a very kind of generic answer, but after I've seen a few different communities and from different industries, I think what we're gonna achieve together is to actually understand what's happening with AI and how we can actually evolve our internal or external processes and help each other and support each other, because I think that's the time that we need to do it, like even in now in 2026. Excited with the community events and everything.
Speaking of that, Search London and Search and Stuff are teaming
Of
up.
course, I was gonna
Forgot to
do
mention that, guys.
self-promotion.
Sorry, I totally forgot to mention that. In
That's
February. Joe, do you want to talk about that? I'm
I
assuming you're excited about
I
that.
am excited about, so leading on nicely built up there, Yammer,
Professional
the
segue.
community,
Boom.
yeah, professional segue, about basically community and also teaming up together. So yes, Search and Stuff is teaming up with Search London to help them with the 15th birthday party. And in South America, the 15th birthday parties are pretty big celebrations. Really happy to be working with Search and Stuff. Thank you very much, Yammer. And our date is February 24th. In central London. It's a Tuesday in the evening from 6 p.m. We are looking for sponsors to come on board and sign up and pay before the end of December, before Christmas, if possible, because we're looking to secure our venue. We need to pay for the venue. So if you are interested, we've got a number of sponsored packages available. That's for any budget, and you'll be getting double the promotion because you'll be getting the promotion from Search and Stuff, which is everywhere, and Search London as well. So contact myself or Yammer if you would like to be a sponsor. We have many different packages available. Thank you.
Great. And I'm excited because today I'm interviewing for some content the Guinness World Record holder for the largest collection of Monopoly games. So I'm very excited. I've met him a few times now, but I'm excited to working with a client that works with Monopoly. That's what I'm excited about today. Great. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to Yama and Law for joining us as our special guests. Thank you to those who are watching live. Thank you to those who watch afterwards on YouTube. As Joe said earlier, come join us. It is so much better live. It's more fun. You can interact, you can ask questions. And what else are you going to be doing at this time on a Friday morning? Thank you so much to Joe for co-hosting. You always do an amazing job. And thank you to those who asked questions. I hope we helped. We are here next week. We're here the week after, and then we're done for Christmas. So come and join us next week. We'll see you then. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yagmur, Lara, and everyone for joining us live. Thank you.